Hi, Flor. Good morning.
Good morning.
How are you today?
I'm well. It's almost weekend. That's always good.
Yeah, I know. Thank you so much for being a part of the show. Really appreciate you coming to our studio and bracing us with your knowledge and presence.
You're welcome. Thank you for inviting me.
Of course, of course. So, Fleur, today we are going to talk about CISO. You are one. And we definitely want to know what you think about the mental health of CISOs today, dealing with so many issues, attacks, budget problems. They're surrounded with a lot of stress, but no one talks about how they feel and how they can cope up if they are going through some mental stress or difficulties. So I thought it would be nice to, touch upon the sensitivity of mental health for particularly CISOs. And that's the reason we are having this topic on air today. So maybe we can start with, you've been working as a CISO for a long time. You've been in this market for some time. How do you think CISOs are perceived in an organization when it is attacked?
Well, when it's attacked, it's all hands on deck. So depending on how much you have invested in preparing for a crisis, and of course, depending on the type of crisis, and how long you've worked somewhere, or how much they are used to having a CISO there when something like this happens, that all affects how they will find you or how they will make sure that you're incorporated in the handling of the incident or crisis. But in the perfect world, you would be probably the one paying attention and picking up the signs that there's something going on before the board or anyone else does, and you're the person informing them that something is about to go wrong or perhaps already has gone wrong. And then it's up to you to advise and give information about the crisis at hand and what to do.
Have you ever been in a situation where something like this has happened? What is the atmosphere in the organization at that time?
Yeah, so the closest to a crisis like this that I've experienced myself was the Citrix crisis a few years back. And I worked as a CISO for a large organization, and they didn't use remote working that much because actually one of the softening factors of the Citrix crisis was the fact that the coronavirus was not at that time. It was actually later. But we still had quite a few employees who worked from home. And we had to think on our feet because we didn't have a lot of time to figure out what are we going to do. So for a large part of the organization, it was fine to say, I'm sorry, but you have to come to office because you cannot use Citrix right now. It's not safe. But for some of these people, that was just not an option because they were on the other side of the world, or, it couldn't be done. So we had to find a way for them to be able to still work without putting the whole organization at risk. So that was a stressing time, obviously. And as a CISO, you don't usually do these things all by yourself. You have colleagues. They don't have to be actually security experts. They could be IT or not even IT people, just people who, come up to you and say, maybe we should try this, or could we not do that? So you try and be sensitive to that and listen, because it's very much possible that even though you're the expert, someone else has a way better idea than you had. So we try and gather up these ideas, and then me as a CISO, I try and see which ideas have which risks and what, from my perspective, would be the best thing to do, and then I advise the board. And another thing I did was I try to make sure that I update the board every few hours using open source intelligence and just news media to see if anything changed. And then I would inform them through like email or something similar. And the atmosphere, it wasn't it wasn't very alarmed, but it was serious.
Right.
So people understood this is serious and we need to make some choices. And some people are not going to be happy, but we have to do this for the best of the organization.
Yeah.
And in that, it helped very much that the Dutch National Security Center, as well as the National Security Agency, they gave some advice what to do, which helped me as a CISO to say, listen, it's not just me saying we need to do this. There's other government officials saying the same thing.
Yeah. Yeah. I think that is something that is very important, which is the support system around the CISO or the security team, right?
Yeah.
If that is not coming in together, I think that's where CISO is collapsing mentally. Have you seen this as a trend going on, that the CISOs are burning out more often these days?
Well, the CISOs I know, they are very experienced and have done this usually for a long time. Like the ones I know best. I'm not saying I know all CISOs in the world, but the ones that I'm familiar with, they're not as affected. I think that's because, the first thing to understand is in the Netherlands, we have a different view on the role than, for example, in the US. So in the Netherlands, we don't have the, I would say, burden of a lot of responsibility when it comes to security. So we are more advisors. That doesn't mean that we don't deal with some of the same issues and stress that the US or other CISOs deal with. However, we are not personally liable. We cannot be sued that easily when things go wrong, which does relieve some of the pressure. However, I do know that from multiple research sources and scientific research, it does show that CISOs unfortunately do burn out a lot. Mm-hmm. And a lot of CISOs either want to leave cybersecurity altogether, or at least the organization that they are working at currently, because they are unhappy with workload and stress and all that.
Right. And what do you think are the biggest reasons for a CISO to be in this situation?
Well, let's just say I'm not a scientist, I'm not a psychologist. So whatever whatever we're talking about today, it's just my personal view and my personal opinion. But what I think happens when you work in this role is that I say a lot of CISOs have what I call a superhero complex, right? We want to save the world. We want to save our companies, our organizations. We want to keep them safe. We want to protect them. And that's very good. You know, there's nothing wrong with that. However, it's very hard if you want to save the world, but you have no means to do it. Like, we have a superhero complex, but we are not actually superheroes. So we don't have the powers. We are not Spider-Man or Superman or woman. Wonder Woman or whatever. If you don't have the means to actually achieve what you want to achieve, that in itself makes, the situation a little rough. You want to do a lot to help the organization, but sometimes it feels like the organization doesn't want your help or doesn't even want to help itself. It feels like that. It can be perceived like that. It doesn't have to actually be the truth, but from our view, it might seem that way. So that's hard. Another thing that contributes to, in my view, stress for CISOs is that you are, as I say, no one in the room is happy to see you. That sounds really harsh, right?
Yeah.
But like, no one in the boardroom or wherever thinks, oh, there's the CISO coming through the door, and now it's going to be fun, or now we're going to have a really good conversation that's going to help our organization get further. And it has nothing to do with how good you are. It has to do with the fact that you are generally perceived as the person who says no to a lot of things, you're like the Debbie Downer of the board. So you're always the person going, are we really sure we want to do this? Yeah. We're like you're the conscious in the back of your head going, you might really want to, buy this very expensive car or whatever, but can you really afford it? Yeah. So you're not the person that everyone things is the most fun, but that's something that when you take on this role that comes with the job. However, it can be sometimes, it can be a little difficult. So that combined with another factor, which is if you work in business, then a lot of companies, they feel like security is mainly costing a lot of money, but it's very difficult to actually see the benefits. So you invest in security, but actually the best case scenario is that nothing happens. And if nothing happens, that actually means your CISO did a good job, but you expect nothing to happen. So that's another thing, as well as that. It's you don't get a lot of compliments because, like I said, if nothing happens, you've done your job.
Yeah.
But no one says, "Good job, CISO. Yeah. We didn't have any attacks." And the final thing that's said a lot is, if you think security is expensive, try a security incident. Usually, after a security incident, suddenly all budgets, they rise for security. And if you're unlucky as a CISO, you might have to find another job if the incident is big enough. Because even though you're not even responsible, for the outside world, companies might feel like it's better to replace you.
Yeah.
So all these factors combined can make it quite a stressful job.
Absolutely. Before this podcast, I just recorded one, is CISO the only one to blame? Yeah. You just picked this up very nicely, saying that you might even lose a job. I mean, how important it is for an organization or the board members to understand that it's not a solo game that you're playing, right? It's a team sport.
Yeah.
And in the end, if you are hacked for a reason, CISO is not the only one to be blamed, in my opinion. So why is he the one who's losing the job? Was he the one who actually clicked on that link?
I did quite a while ago. I made a LinkedIn post that got picked up by a few media channels because there was a newspaper article about a hack on the Dutch police. And they said, well, a volunteer for the police actually clicked a link, and this allowed the attackers to gain entrance. Oh. And I was quite angry with that because, like we just talked about, is it really the person who clicks the link that is responsible? Why was it even possible for one person to click a link and cause an incident as large as that, when you have an organization where over, I don't know, so many thousands of people work there, and just one of those thousands of people clicking one link can have that effect?
Yeah.
I'm sorry, you cannot really say that it's that person's fault anymore. Yeah. There has to be someone, and that's in general a problem I have with awareness campaigns in security.
Yeah.
We tend to use awareness as a measure to say, we told them not to click those links. Well, if you're being realistic, then I think you have to understand that even though, that person might have clicked a link, even though we told them not to, us as experts, we have issues actually recognizing the phishing emails of these days. Yeah. So how can you expect anyone who's not even an expert to get it right every single time?
Absolutely. Absolutely. And it all comes with a change in the culture, I guess. Training and awareness is what you very rightly mentioned. People need to be consciously aware of what is happening, what are the new trends, what kind of emails are we getting, what kind of clicks. But then obviously the security team needs to keep themselves up to date as well on what are the trends that are coming up in the market for these malicious activities. Do you think that CISO's burnout is directly related to cyber threats in the organization?
I think that's a difficult question to answer. It's not that black and white. But I do think that if you have an organization that gets hit with a lot of incidents in a very short period of time, that can, of course, increase the stress levels for you as a CISO. Again, depending on if you're in the US or in the Netherlands, there might be a difference, but it's stressful either way. So, as with many things, it depends. So it depends on, did you get your organization to take correct measures, or do you feel like they listen to you when you give them advice? Like if you have a lot of incidents, but they get handled very well and your advice is listened to, and I want to stress it's listened to, but it doesn't mean they have to follow your advice every single time, but you have to get the opportunity to at least give your advice.
Yeah.
And then it's up to board or management to decide, are they going to follow it or not?
Yeah.
So yeah, it depends on, do you have the opportunity to really take your role, express your opinions and advice, and do you feel like it's taken seriously? Then if you have a lot of incidents, it might not even be that bad.
Yeah.
Versus you can have one incident and just be completely ignored and not being included in any meetings or anything. That can cause a lot more stress than just having a lot of incidents.
Yeah, absolutely. Do you think a CISO should be in the board?
I think that's a difficult question. It's a difficult question because when you look at the title, then the answer is yes, because it's a C-level title. In the Netherlands, I think it's just, we interpret the role differently. We don't really know boards like this. We have CIOs and we have maybe CFOs. And of course, we have CEOs. But boards in the Netherlands, they seem to be, to me, as a government CISO, by the way, quite fluid. So then suddenly there's a CPO and there's a CTO and so should the CISO be on the board? It depends on what you want, what you expect from the role. So if you want the role to be responsible for cybersecurity, then yes, of course, then you have to also be there making the decisions together, getting the budgets, getting the mandate to actually make those decisions on an executive level. If you don't want to give a CISO that kind of responsibility, and there's perfectly legitimate reasons to do it that way, but then your place should not be on the board. Your place should be very close to the board because you should be a trusted advisor, but you shouldn't be on there making decisions if you have no budget and no means and no team, no nothing. So yeah, it depends on what you expect from the role. Should a CISO be on the board? That depends.
Yeah. Okay. Going back to the burnout situation, how do you recognize the first symptoms? I know you're not a psychologist, and of course, but maybe in your experience, you would have seen or heard that when a CISO is going through this, how would you recognize the symptoms, and what are the proactive measures that a CISO should do in order to, come back on his feet?
Yeah, so I think burnout is actually like a diagnosis, like a formal thing. So yeah, it's hard for me to say these are the symptoms or the signs, but there are things that I think you can do to make the job a little lighter for yourself mentally. So I'm not saying it's going to prevent burnout because, again, I'm not a doctor, but I think like I said, we have a superhero complex. We want to save the world. Hold on to that. Don't throw that away, but put a bit of nuance into that. So instead of going home after a long day, trying to convince your board to do something, and again, they decided not to do it, and then feel bad about it. Because a lot of us, we go home and we take that with us. We go to bed and we think, oh God, we're going to get hacked because they didn't do this. And I told them and I tried to warn them, but it's all going to go wrong, Let it go. It's not your responsibility. It is not your company. It is someone else's company. Your job is to give that person the best advice you can based on all your knowledge and your experience and everything. If you've done that, if you feel like you have given everything you know and done your best, then that's all you can do. And there's a very good talk about from I think it's a professor somewhere in the US. And I like to talk about this example with others. So he, maybe you've heard of it. He stands in front of the class and he's holding a glass of water and he's holding it like this. And he asks the students, how heavy is this glass of water? And then hands are raised and students go, it's this much, or it's that much, or it's that much. And he says, all right, you're all wrong. And he says, it doesn't actually matter how heavy this glass of water is. If I try and hold it like this for a longer period of time, the longer I'm trying to hold it, the heavier it's going to feel for me. And eventually, if I hold it like this long enough with your arm stretched out, I'm going to have to drop it because my arm is going to hurt too much. And he said, what a lot of people do with mental things that they are struggling with, and I think CISOs in particular, like I just told you, we go home, we take that with us, and it affects us. We keep thinking about it and ruminating. And he said, well, actually, the only thing you have to do is to just put the glass down. Just put the glass down. Yeah. And then it doesn't matter anymore how heavy it is. And I think that's a very nice example of what I hope a lot of CISOs who experience distress can do. It's just let it go.
Yeah. And I think that is just a personality or it's a trait that human has because he feels responsible. He feels accountable. And he finds it difficult to let it go. But I think with practice and keeping your sanity, it is important to let it go. Otherwise, you will end up in the hospital probably.
And I mean, it's talked about in like all these coaching and stuff where they say, you know, there's a circle of influence and there's a circle of, you know, where you have no influence. In the circle that you have no influence, you have to let it go. And I always think, you know, and that also goes for the example I just gave, like, oh, it's so easy, just let it go, you know, just put the glass down. It's not that easy. I understand because we have the superhero complex. We don't want to let it go. However, I think, like you said, it takes practice. So it's not a button you push and then all of a sudden you've let it go. But yeah, sometimes it's good to be frustrated about it. Maybe talk to someone about it, like call up a CISO, you know, and just go, oh, they're still not listening to me. And, you know, kind of vent about it and then let it go. Because, you know, when something triggers you and you get very emotional, you cannot suddenly just, oh, well, never mind. Yeah. Find someone you trust that you can vent to and then maybe get it out of your system.
Yeah. Do you think the advancements of AI that are coming up are going to help the security professionals and let them be a little bit at ease?
Yeah, I think it's both a curse and a blessing in different ways. So AI is causing us insecurity, more stress because it comes with more advanced techniques for attacks, more advanced phishing emails. So in that way, we're not super excited maybe about AI. At the same time, it has its benefits when it comes to tooling, when it comes to maybe writing difficult policies that you're not very good at. You might try and see if you can get some inspiration from it or something like that. So I think it works both ways. It makes your job more difficult in some ways, and it makes it more easy in others.
Yeah. On a personal level, Fleur, what would you say to a person who's experiencing or a CISO who's experiencing a burnout?
Well, again, I'm not a doctor, but I would say you're not alone. And I think, but that's a theory because again, I'm not a doctor. But I think usually when people experience burnout, it's a combination of factors. So it's not just your job; it's the fact that you have a difficult job and usually something in your private life that is also difficult for you, and maybe combined with not being able to cope with these things for whatever reason, maybe stress or trauma or whatever, in a very efficient way, which then builds up and then causes you to go into burnout. But what I would say is you're not alone, and find help, obviously. And see, maybe you can find, because there are CISOs that do coaching, not me, by the way, don't call me, but there are CISOs that do coaching. And I think having another CISO kind of who knows what you're going through, give you some tips and advice on how to deal and cope with certain things might also help. Mainly that.
Yeah. Okay. Well, on that advice, I want to move to our next round, Fleur, which is a rapid fire round.
Oh,
It is a fun round.
okay.
And I'm going to throw some questions at you and expect you to answer them as fast as possible.
I'll give it a shot.
Lovely. Ready?
Sure.
Okay. What keeps a CISO awake at night?
Malware.
Yeah, sure. Name 3 things that should be in CISO's care kit.
Do you mean incident response or
No.
responsibility?
Mental care kit.
Oh, mental care kit. Come at me, bro attitude. This is not my organization. And it's your funeral.
Okay. Do you think having a cyber insurance will help CISOs ease mentally?
No.
First of all, maybe for our viewers, what is cyber insurance?
Yeah, it's mainly a financial insurance that if you get ransomware or you get attacked and you have certain damages that your organization can file a claim and it can get some money back. Mm-hmm. And the reason I'm saying it's not going to help because for you as a CISO, it has no effects. Like you're going to be looked at the same way by your organization. They're going to blame you in the same way, whether there's an insurance or not, for the fact that this incident happened. And even though you might have insurance for the monetary damages that your organization has suffered, but like the image damage that you might have suffered as an organization, it's very hard to fix that with an insurance. Okay. So that's why I say, for a CISO, it's not that, doesn't really make that much of an impact.
Okay. Very good answer, Fleur. Okay. This is a little bit with numbers. What percentage of cybersecurity professionals are dealing with burnout symptoms?
Well, I think you can actually find the actual number, but I think it's between 70 to 80%.
Yeah. Oh, that was spot on. What will you say to a CEO who is blaming the CISO for the hack in the company?
Again, it depends on if the CISO is on the board or not. If the CISO is responsible for cybersecurity and they had budget and they had mandates, then you might be, depending of course on different circumstances, but you might be completely right in blaming the CISO. In our country, if your CISO is not actually on the board and it's an advisor, then again, it depends on did the CISO give you the proper advice. If they did not, then they have a part in the fact that this happened. But you hired them. So I tend to say you always get the CISO that you deserve as an organization. If you pay peanuts, you get monkeys. If you hire someone because they talk to you in a way that confirms all your biases and you like that, and that's why you hired them, then that's what they will continue to do, but it's not going to help your security very much. So yeah, depending on people you hire, you get a certain quality of cybersecurity advice. So it's too easy for a CEO to blame everything on the CISO. Like you probably hired that person, so you have to take some of the blame.
Right. Yeah. Okay. Which AI capability is most used in cybersecurity defense?
A defense, I think antivirus. Mm-hmm. So we tend to think AI is something very new and very innovative, but actually we've had antivirus for decades. And antivirus programs usually work on base of signatures, and the signatures are not necessarily AI, but they can. If you take network traffic, they can actually analyze and use AI to recognize patterns where things are going wrong. This is not just antivirus; this is XDR and all kinds of monitoring. But it's not very new.
Okay. Are there any trainings or education that a CISO should have?
I think should have is a big way to state it, but Um, a lot of organizations will ask you for CISM, for CISO, or CISPP, SSP.
SSP.
Yeah. I don't have any of these, by the way. I took a training exam for CISM without doing any of the training, just to see if I, as an experienced CISO, would actually get the certificate if I tried without any training. I will not give you the answer because it's on my podcast. But yeah, I think CISM is a fine certificate to do and get. But again, it depends on what kind of CISO you want to be. If you want to be like a ZZPer, you want to get hired for different jobs, then yeah, get the bingo card, because you're gonna need it.
Yeah.
If you work for government like me, it's more difficult. It's kind of like many of the other C-level roles. Like, is there a CEO training? Like, maybe I'm not a CEO or CIO, but usually you end up in this role because you have a lot of experience from before.
Yeah.
So, I don't know many children that grow up going, when I grow up, I want to be a CIO. Like, that's not something people aspire to be. They just end up there. Yeah. So I would say, if you want to become a CISO, do the work before. So become a security officer, engineer, whatever, ethical hacker. Do the stuff before, and then you'll get there eventually.
Yeah. Okay. How do you handle stress as a CISO?
Yeah, depending on. Yeah, I've had a difficult time with it. I really had to learn. I went to bed at night going, oh my God, they're not listening. We're going to get hacked. This is going to be catastrophic. I was that person. And I think I've actually had, because of my medical condition, I've had some psychologist and I don't know the English word, ergotherapeut. So I've had some support actually for something in my private life, but it helped me understand things in my professional life too. And it helped me understand the things I was doing wrong professionally, because funnily enough, in my experience, the dumb things I did at work were quite similar as the dumb things I did at home. Dumb things as in, if you let your emotions take the better of you, then yeah, if that's the kind of person you are, then you're not gonna be able to change that going home or being at work. So I've managed my emotion. I'm learning to manage my emotions better, and that's beneficial to me in my private life as well as my professional life.
Yeah.
So that's how I kind of learn. So that's why I say I want to learn to have more of a come at me bro attitude, to be able to sit back in meetings and go, whatever you're going to throw at me, doesn't matter. I'll tackle it. Yeah. And sometimes I'm noticing I'm getting better at it. And sometimes I still, I've had a bad night's sleep. The stuff with the children at home is annoying or not going very well. And we have to do this meeting again. I'm not prepared for this for whatever reason. And then something happens and it's a mess. But I find that these things, they happen less and less.
Okay, good. How do you promote good cyber hygiene throughout your organization?
Cyber hygiene. Well, first of all, I think it's a weird word. That's why I repeated it. It's a perfectly normal word, by the way. Everyone uses it, but I think it's weird. But I understand what you mean. No, first of all, as a CISO, you always give the right example. So, and I when I worked with security officers in my team, I told them to do the same. So sometimes they would go and they would work like in the restaurant of the building, and they would not use their privacy screen or not use like certain things that you can see they are not using. And they would tell me like, Yes, but I know what I'm doing. I know I'm not showing any sensitive information on my screen, and I'm changing the angle so it's hard to see. I'm like, I know you're a security professional. You know these things, but your colleagues are going to go downstairs. Our restaurant is downstairs. They're going to get a cup of coffee. They're going to see the security officer sitting there with his laptop and no privacy screen. What message is that sending to them? They don't they don't think like that. They think, oh, if he's not using it, then why should I? And that's what you're trying to convey, is that you have to practice what you preach. Yeah. If you tell people use a privacy screen, use the privacy screen. And do this like monk, like religiously. Yeah. To the point that, for me, even now, when I work at home and there's no one at home, and I work in an attic, so there's no windows someone can look through. Even then, when I go to the bathroom, I lock my screen. And it's not because I think, oh, maybe a coworker is going to see it, but it's automatically I do it.
Yeah, it's embedded in you.
Right. So yeah, how do you convey these types of behaviors to your organization? Well, first of all, give the right example. Yeah. This was a rapid fire thing. I've gone on, all right.
I know, that's fine.
All right.
It's very interesting.
Cut me off if I need to stop
talking. It.
But yeah, and the second thing I try is when I do awareness campaigns, and I stress I do awareness campaigns. I don't hire people to do awareness campaigns for me. I do them. Is I try to make them so much fun that if you weren't there because you were on holiday or were sick or something, you get major FOMO. Like you get, oh God, I wish I was there. Like that type of activities for security, without making it a competition. Yeah. So I try and stay away from competitions, because a lot of people, myself included, as soon as it's a competition, we go, oh, let someone else do, like try and win and run very fast or whatever. I'm not interested in being the best or something like that. So some people, they will not engage in your awareness activity if it's a competition. So that doesn't mean I don't give out prizes, but I give prizes to everyone that achieves a certain goal. So everyone we had puzzles last year, everyone who managed to solve this puzzle, they got a bar of chocolate, or they got something, a sticker or whatever. Yeah. And there was no the best or most points or something like that.
Okay.
So that, and of course, try and engage people when you see that they're doing things that are not very smart, or they could do better. But don't do it like a school teacher.
Yeah.
So don't go, you forgot to lock your screen, and do you understand the risk and everything? I would say, go talk to this person and go, what would happen if, like, I don't know, someone from outside our organization would have walked past your station, and have a conversation about it. However, don't overdo it.
Yeah.
Because, yes, locking your screen and privacy screens, they are important, but it's not the end of the world. For most organizations, it's not for everyone. Sometimes it is the end of the world, but for most organizations, one person not locking their screen one time, it's not going to cause a lot of problems. But I pick your battles.
Yeah.
And because otherwise you're going to be the lady that always screams about your screen not being locked.
Yeah.
You don't want to be that person. Unless it's very important for your organization, of course. There are niche situations where it's very important. But like I said, mostly it's...
Yeah. Okay. Last question. What advice would you give to your younger self?
Oh, what advice would I give to my younger self? I would say like I said, put the glass down. Just don't take it home and don't go to bed with it, because it's not your organization.
Yeah. Okay. Perfect. That was the end to our conversation, Fleur. It was wonderful. I think out of this whole conversation, few things stood up for me. They were my takeaways. Of course, let it go is one. But also, yes, you have the tendency of being a superhero, but it is not your organization at the end of the day. So you are responsible for managing your own mental health. Keeping yourself accountable is important. Responsible is important, but not at the cost of your health. Yeah. So I think that's the end to our conversation. And I really appreciate all your knowledge and all your inputs here. I'm sure the audience are going to enjoy it. Thank you so much.
Thank you.